Yeah. So there's been a lot going on in AD&E, huh?
There has. It's been a really big year for us. Actually, when you look across the last 12 months, it's been extraordinary. I mean, for me, it often feels like I'm looking like at a dashboard of a car and you're seeing all these various kind of barometers of growth and health, and everything is up, everything is green. I mean, our church attendance on Sunday is growing, giving is growing, the number of churches is growing, the number of outreach and creativity and outreach, all of this is growing. I actually feel there's an increased boldness and competency, and even a sense of joy actually in what we're doing. I think is increasing. That's what I'm kind of hearing on the ground. It's also been a year which I wasn't expecting, where we have seen a whole bunch of new buildings suddenly, and to me, I mean, clearly the church is not the building, it's the people, we know that, but I do think when a church community, when a family of God come together and say, we are committed to this area, we're putting down deep roots, we're committed to one another, we're going to take on this bold project of actually establishing a building that is ours to reach the wider community. That is a really cool thing. So we've had St. Peter's has just bought a new building in Winchester, and that's incredible because these guys are this is a lot of folk there are kind of first generation Ugandan church, and actually to come create community and then to actually have the wherewithal to say, let's get a building. I think that's an extraordinary thing. In Portland, we literally have been given a building in downtown Portland. It's an amazing site. And then we have other churches that have found really cool new locations. We have a church in Vermont that almost like an historic society has said, look, we have this building, we've been preserving it wonderfully. We actually think it should be used for worship. And they've contacted one of our guys, one of our clergy, to say, can you take this on? And he's taken it on almost as a sister church. So it's been a really extraordinary year for us, I think, putting roots down and getting almost like established on the horizon line of New England. For me, one of the big distinguishing marks of the Spirit is creativity. It's been curious to me how many of our churches have started to build art collectives as a bridge to the wider community, kind of gathering artists, gathering art that tells stories. I mean, we saw that at Reawakening amongst our own people. It was incredibly powerful. When people are actually released and encouraged to actually tell their story through the medium of art, whether again that's poetry or photography or oil paint or whatever it is, it evokes not just the story, but if you like, the feeling, the emotion, the heart, and it gives others an opportunity to look at that piece of artwork and say, oh, you too, I thought it was just me. And the thing is, I think for people who do not yet know Jesus, they have stories too. And actually their stories are equally invested with the love of Jesus. They just haven't made that connection. And I think the artwork not only connects them with us and builds friendship, but it also helps them make connection that actually maybe I do see how God was at work in my life here. I look back, this could have been a bleak time, and yet actually there was kindness shown here, and here, and I know I'm in a better place today. And is it possible that God was a part of that healing?
Why do you think we're seeing so much good news and growth across the diocese? Why now?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, I mean, first of all, I think it's cumulative. I think there is a sense in which the flywheel is really beginning to turn. I think I've got to say that we have some amazing clergy who are working really faithfully with some very strong leadership teams, and some amazingly faithful congregations. So without question, their growth as a congregation, the sense of cohesion, coming together with their gifts, raising up leadership, all of that is increasing. So that's definitely there. I think as a diocese, it's because we have been able to commit to the things that we said we were going to do. So, for example, with leadership development, we have really raised the game on pastoral care for our clergy. That is now kind of in its second year of inception, which means that all of our pastoral team are building even stronger relationship with the clergy they're dealing with. They're caring for, building rule of life, looking at their life kind of holistically, leaning in. When we all go through challenging times, and I think there's a in that care, there's now a moment, an opportunity, a freedom to say, actually, I could do with some help at the moment. As a family, we're just going through a bit of a hard time, or there's these challenges, and we can kind of lean in there with kind of added care. And I think the culture has become that that's okay. No one has to be frightened of actually asking for help. And I think that comes out of the goodness of relationship that we've continued to build with the pastoral team. And then with leadership development, I mean, I think really getting alongside our clergy, our wardens and our vestries, and giving them the tools to say, okay, what is the Lord asking of you in your area? Where do you see him opening doors? What is the vision? And then, okay, how can we help you put that vision into action? So the Missional Planning Summit, which I think when we started, I don't doubt the clergy for thinking, oh my gosh, what is this? But now, all the testimony I'm receiving and the fruit that I'm seeing would tell me that this is a prayerful opportunity. It's almost like kind of withdrawing to the mountaintop with a team and bringing our best prayerful thinking, creating our plans under the guidance of the Lord and the Spirit, leaning into his vision, saying, okay, if this is the big vision, what are we going to do in the next 12 months to get closer to it? And actually looking at some measurable goals. And I think that's terrific because we actually have something to celebrate. It's like here's something that God has placed on our hearts, and we're seeing it actually come alive. We may not be all the way there yet, but there are definitely markers along the way that we can actually identify. And so that the Missional Planning Summit is amazing. We have remained deeply committed to children and youth. We've had multiple youth and children's camps, and those have been really creative. So we've had a farm camp for kids. We've had, we've had a sports camps. We've had kind of the more regular kind of camps around a campfire and all the various activities that go on around that. But plenty of opportunities for young people across the diocese to gather. And for me, a big win there is that they are making friends across the diocese. So, you come to, maybe it's the third retreat you've done, and you come and the people that are there. And because you feel comfortable and you're known and you're meeting up with friends, the chances of you actually bringing a new person with you is so much greater. And we're seeing that beginning to happen as well. So lots of creativity and lots of opportunities for our young people. Church planting, we continue to grow there. I mean, I think that's often, a good analogy is like Christmas tree farming there. You're kind of growing in a small unit, and then the next year it's a little bigger, and then the next year it's a little bigger. All of our existing church plants are going to whole new heights of growth. I mean, they are, in one sense, no longer plants. They are established churches with Sunday attendances of over 100 people. So, that's a wonderful win. And then there are beautiful rumors of plants up and down New England. There are folk who have gathered, numbers of people. There's vision and developing, and we're working with them. We're looking at something very exciting in Boston, particularly to look to the large Brazilian population in Boston. I'm very excited about that. Watch this space. It's very new. We're praying about it, but it's real. So I hope we're going to see that. And then Reawakening, which really is a very focused attempt to bring the whole of the diocese together, to make a space for the Holy Spirit and to kind of refocus us on the big vision. What is it that we're sharing in together? And this year's Reawakening for me was the best we've done yet. I'm sure we'll improve on the plenary speaker, but I think it was the best yet. The team are phenomenal. And actually this morning we were sharing as a team kind of the wins and the things that we really enjoyed. And we all agreed there was just such a generosity of spirit in Reawakening, a generosity that expressed itself in people really leaning forward to hear a testimony. And people were moved to tears by hearing of what their colleagues are doing in another part of New England and the hardships and how they've overcome and how God has blessed that. That the worship was just remarkable. The sense of being envisioned coming back to the person of Jesus. I think it was a moment where we were able to celebrate the breadth of our churchmanship. I mean, our vision, our mission, our orthodoxy, there's a beautiful unity. And that expresses itself in many different ways. And I think this year I feel we were able to give much more space and room for those kind of multiple expressions. And then the regional reawakenings. This is where we as a team will go to a local church and essentially over a weekend provide an opportunity to bless and minister to them, and then work with them in some kind of outreach activity in their community. We did one in Manchester. It was just superb. And I think everybody who took part, particularly in the outreach activity, said this was so much more than we imagined. It was so much easier than we imagined, and it was actually a whole lot more fun. I mean, this in Manchester, they did this beautiful thing where they created like a fall festival with a lot of kids' games, and but they did it right next to a soccer match. So you got all these kind of bored siblings who are watching their older siblings playing football or soccer, and we created this cool space for them to just kind of have fun. And one of the joys for me in that moment was actually seeing parents play with their kids, just literally have fun. And that wouldn't have happened if we weren't there. No hard sell, just a very gentle, generous, open invitation. I mean, folk were kind of handed and were great pleased to receive an invitation to the church. But all kinds of great conversations took place, and a sense of, these are good people. This is good. This is just transparently good. So that's been wonderful, really wonderful to see.
Sweet. Yeah, there's clearly been so much going on across the Diocese of New England and in this part of the world, but we've also heard a little bit about what's going on, especially at Reawakening. We got to hear a little bit about what's going on across the world, and in our more global partnerships.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you'd share a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think one of the things that is just such a gift to us as a diocese is that we are a global movement of the Holy Spirit. We really are. I mean, we have amazing Kenyan and Ugandan churches, and they are seeing a big influx of people from other parts of the world as well. So, Holy Trinity in Auburn is seeing people from Liberia, South Africa, Nigeria, Sudan, and other places kind of come into as part of the growth in their church, which is fabulous. You've got a Brit. I always want to joke and say an Australian and see if anybody notices the difference. But I'm an American citizen, but I come from the UK. We have a great South American presence, particularly in Connecticut. So all of these things I think do make us. We are for New England, but it is a global movement of the Spirit as a diocese. And how that kind of works globally, we've been really blessed now to do 2 trips, one to Uganda in 2022, and then this year we were in Uganda and Kenya, which was a massive undertaking. But the Lord really blessed it and just produced this extraordinary network of friendship, really. A lot of our churches in the US are saying, look, we want to be effective globally. We've even put money aside from our budget to actually have a global impact. We want to serve, but we just don't know how to do that well. Well, the Lord has kind of led us through the relationships we have with our East African brothers and sisters to establish really credible partnerships. So one of those, for example, was the well that we put in Masaka, just kind of 90 miles outside of Kampala. I still can't get over the colossal impact that well had on that community. I mean, I felt very clearly in my spirit that it was something the Lord was inviting us into. We were able to raise the money. Audrey, who is our Ugandan missionary there on the ground, ensured that literally not a cent was wasted. And we now have a well. We think it's more like 5,000 people that are being, positively impacted by this, clean, healthy, undiseased water. But it's also helping them irrigate crops and, irrigate livestock. It's going to the health center. They've got a 5-acre coffee cash crop, which is producing income, which is building a vocational center for when their kids graduate from school so they can teach them skills. I mean, the impact is just unbelievable. It just keeps going and going and going. And I think there's something for us there. I do feel the well is a little bit of a prophetic awakening to the kind of work that the Lord is calling us to. So that was amazing. And this this year at Reawakening was a bit to kind of launch those potential partnerships, and we had a very big response. So I think the Lord's vision and the dream is that we see multiple trips each year and widespread support from the diocese who, you know, under God's leading, determine a particular project they want to get invested in, and we can actually make that connection. So that's just super exciting. That's for me, that's very life-giving, and for all those involved, I know it's just been really amazing to see God open that up.
It's awesome. Yeah, there's so much going on with the diocese from all that you've shared, and so much has happened in the last 12 months, as you were saying. And what do you see? What do you see as the invitation for us to continue?
Yeah, I think the Lord is shaping us, growing us to be a leader in the proclamation of the gospel in word and action. Not the leader, but I think a leading voice. I mean, I say that with all humility and some fear and trepidation, but when I look at the quality of leaders that he's drawing to us and the extraordinary commitment of our congregations, I cannot help but come to that conclusion that there's something really credible here. And it feels like the flywheel is actually turning. Now, a lot of that is because, you know, our churches are committed. And as I said, you know, tithing across the board has increased, which is amazing. I think it's also because we have been so blessed by an increasing body of people who have seen the vision and are working with us to accelerate or in one sense, I think, to keep pace with what the Lord desires to do in New England. And so this added investment is actually enabling us to go deeper on the priorities that I've just described. And hence, I think we're able to lean in and resource the growth that we're actually seeing. So I think the invitation is, you know, if it's as simple as this, we're an increasingly large body, and if, say, just 500 households determine that on top of what they're giving to their church, which I know is sacrificial, and again, so grateful for that, and what I'm about to say shouldn't compete with that, but if they were able to give to the diocese, say, $500, if 500 families gave $500, that would be an additional $250,000. And there is so much that we can do with that around leadership development, children and youth, you know, church planting, and bringing renewal and an awakening, you know, in the spirit across New England. I think there's a moment here. You know, I think we can often kind of fall into conversations of despair about the church and the increasingly kind of post-Christendom age, but there is something real that is happening here. You know, I could sit here for hours and tell you stories of sacrifice and fruitfulness and persevering and God coming through. I really could. But there's something real here. And I think it's a moment for us as a diocese to actually say, you know what, God is actually truly at work here. You know, the formation of the diocese, you know, those years ago, what the Lord is now doing in this season, it's not purposeless. We're not playing at this. God is intentionally choosing to move through us to bring people to a living faith in Jesus Christ, and those of us who know him to a deeper relationship in our faith and greater fruitfulness. So I would really encourage us to really seize the moment. I think every generation has that opportunity in the Lord. Are we actually going to lean into this? Are we going to sit back and say, oh, that's nice? Or are we actually going to see that this is a moment in the Holy Spirit in the 2020s where we do actually have the Lord has given us an opportunity to actually tip the needle, to actually bring about renewal. So I really encourage us to prayerfully consider his invitation. 500 households bringing a gift of $500 would be $250,000. You know, some people maybe could give less than that, others maybe could give a little more, but together that would be an incredible investment in this extraordinary work that God is doing up and down New England.
Yeah, is there anything else that you would love to say to the diocese and just all the congregation?
Yeah, I would actually. I think I want to say thank you. I want to say a huge thank you. I'm in awe of what they are doing. And I want to say thank you for everybody who's given. I want to say thank you to everybody who's stepped up. I want to say thank you to our clergy, who I think are just doing an extraordinary job of shepherding in a very complicated cultural context. This is, we used to laugh and say New England, it's you'll know if you're called here kind of thing. But the gospel still works. And I'm really grateful for leaders and congregations who are living that out. So I think, what I want to end with is a very big thank you.